Thank you for joining me on the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, AZ. I find the research and resources and then provide the fire service with the so what, now what, to ensure the health and well-being of every member of our profession. Together, let's thrive. Hello, everyone. I am back. It's AZ with another episode of the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. This is going to be episode number 11, and I am back with my friend, Mo. Mo, say hi to everyone.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for having me back.
Two-time guest already. So she went from not being a podcast guest to two-time guest. I love it. It's amazing.
Growth.
I wanted to have her back today to talk about, because we have so many great professionals, health and wellness professionals in the United States. We have CSCSs, we have physical therapists, we have athletic trainers, dietitians, even mental health professionals who want to work in public safety, but they just don't know how to do it. And Mo has done it. So I want to talk to her first. Let's get a little bit of background, how she came to be an athletic trainer, and then fast forward, how is she now an athletic trainer in public safety? Mo, take it away.
I will do my best. So I'm originally from the Washington, D.C. area, Maryland side. And I was in high school and decided to get an internship. And I got an internship at a physical therapy office because I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. And that was from the very stereotypical story of you got hurt, you went to PT, you decided that was going to be your career. And so I started that internship and I loved my internship, but realized that PT was not for me. More than likely because I was in the outpatient rehab setting, and there are a million different settings to be in PT. That's one that I got experience in. It just wasn't for me. I worked with my high school's athletic trainer at the same time, and that was much more on my wavelength. And so after my internship was done, I would go back to my high school and I would work with Miss Bond, was her name. And I will say, with the caveat of I learned quickly I didn't want to be a high school athletic trainer. If you know a secondary school athletic trainer, buy them a gift. They are an angel sent from heaven. They are great. And honestly, sometimes I have patients that their only interaction with an athletic trainer has been either their own high school AT or their kids' high school AT. So it makes my job easier that they're so great at their job. So thank you if you're a high school athletic trainer listening to this. And then once I went to college, I got my Bachelor of Science in Athletic Training from Xavier University in Cincinnati. That's what really brought me to the Midwest. Been in the Midwest ever since. So 6 days after graduation, I started my doctorate in athletic training. No regrets. Would not recommend only having 6 days in between. But I went to an incredible program at Indiana State University. And for my first year there, I did a residency at Miami of Ohio with their Division I sports and club sports program. And after that year of residency was up, Indiana State asked if I would consider coming to Terra Haute to be a graduate assistant and potentially open a clinic for the Terra Haute Fire Department. At the time, I thought I really wanted to be a military athletic trainer. And the reason for that is growing up, before I thought I wanted to be a PT, I really wanted to be a Marine. My parents were not in the military, but my extended family, a lot of Marines there. So then when I was 15, I got diagnosed with epilepsy, seizures and guns, not a great combo. That got eliminated for me. So I loved athletic training and thought I can still do this as part of a military setting. And to break into that, you need a good chunk of years of experience in like Division I sports or some sort of tactical realm. That very cyclical, you have to have experience to get experience, to have enough experience to get more experience. We all have seen that in every field. So when I was given this opportunity to work with tactical athletes, period, even though it wasn't military, and I was only 22 at the time, I only had 1 year of athletic training experience, I thought, this is a great way for me to put something on my resume that other people will not have and might break me into Marine Corps athletic training sooner. And thank you to Dr. Games, my advisor and my mentor at the time, that his amazing way of putting it was, I think you have the personality to handle this. And now that I'm in fire and have been for years, I'm like, that wasn't a compliment, but thank you.
Dr. Games.
Grown men enough all day that they'll listen. But so I went to opened that clinic. And at the time, only 2 existed in the country. There was one in San Antonio, Texas, and one with Denver Metro in Colorado. So that clinic opened through Indiana State and served the Terra Haute Fire Department specifically. That graduate assistantship obviously ended when I finished my doctorate, and it became a full-time job where I was still running that clinic. And there were 2 PhD students there with me at that time. Then I was also the rehab specialist for Division I athletics for Indiana State Athletics. And then after that, I started consulting for what was called Methodist Sports Medicine, is now Forte Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. No one bought anyone else. We just rebranded in December of 2021. And I'm in the Indianapolis area, and my job was to build their tactical athlete program as a consultant, and then I became full-time for them. So I network, make contacts, and negotiate contracts with police and fire departments, and then I embed an athletic trainer into that department, open their program, do all the budgeting and fun admin stuff that I love so much. And that program then functions to serve those people of that department specifically. So I do that part as well for White River Township Fire Department in the Greenwood, Indiana area, right outside of Indianapolis. But I'll stop rambling now.
Oh, that wasn't rambling at all. That's perfect. Perfect amount of information. Let's back up for one moment. Mm-hmm. Dr. Games had you come set up that clinic in Terre Haute, but at what point were they already in the process? Meaning, had they already made the contract, everything was worked out, you just had to set it up, or did you have to start from ground zero? And if you did have to start from ground zero, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think I have answers to both of those things for you. The first answer when it comes to Terre Haute is they had already made initial contact with one another, and there was enough of a contract that ended up in place once I was there that legally everything was, copacetic, if you will, but there wasn't that really drawn out kind of business agreement that I now have when I work with new departments. So moving back to Terre Haute, I had actually, we talked in our last episode about how athletic trainers function under the standing orders of a physician. And I actually got to use the physician for the fire department as the physician that I practiced under. So that was nice that we all worked within the same set of rules, if you will. And then trying to understand the difference between what their guidelines were as EMS when they roll up on the same type of scene that an athletic trainer could and the different things we could do. Very great learning opportunity, but I digress on that. So with that, I didn't do a ton of contract negotiation, but everything other than the signed piece of paper that said, yes, you may work here, I did all of this stuff after that. So like, here are the keys to this research lab that has 2 tables in it, figure out everything else. And it was definitely like being pushed headfirst into the deep end as a baby clinician that knew nothing about fire. I didn't have family members in fire. I'm not a legacy within public safety at all. And it was a lot to learn. And I credit the members of the Terre Haute Fire Department with teaching me everything that I know as my foundation in fire. And the funny thing is, now sitting around the kitchen table solving the world's problems with them, they're like, we never thought that you'd work out. Like, thanks, guys. I was just like the bubbly 22-year-old that said, I'm going to make your back stop hurting. And the amount of times, even still now, 6 years later, that I get, darling, my back's hurt longer than you've been alive. What can you possibly do for me? And it's like, I excuse my mouth, but basically you can stop bitching and give it a shot. And worst case scenario is you just don't have any differences, or we can try something because you've been in pain for 30 years and that is unacceptable to me. Maybe you like it, but I don't. So Terre Haute, that was all, I wrote a grant for the first time through my university and got $700 worth of funding to buy rehab equipment, and had to figure out with Glenn Hall, who was the deputy chief at the time. He's driving now for their Engine 11, I believe. He gave me every opportunity in the world to succeed. And when I tell you, I sat across from this man for the first time and I fully seriously asked him as my first question, is it called a radio or a walkie-talkie? And this man still let me work there. So we've come a long way, a long, long way.
Yes, you have.
Yeah. But so then when we move into the Forte sports medicine side of things, I was brought on board to build it from the ground up. So it's not that I know the ins and outs of writing a legal contract. We have a lawyer for that. We have people that work in business and our CEO who are much more well versed in that. But in terms of introducing the cost model and bringing government officials and administration of police and fire departments on board, that's my job, because I'm kind of like the translator between, sometimes it's the translator between physician and patient, not because a physician doesn't know how to break something down to a good enough health literacy level for a patient, but because a patient may not be able to explain exactly what getting off of a fire engine looks like, or exactly what forcible entry looks like. Or I know that you said it's okay, I can't kneel on one knee, but I'm not, because if you're at auto extrication, you cannot be on two knees. Those are things that I need to know to be able to tell physicians that, so that they can meld into the same world together. And then also being the translator between really the world of medicine and money and administration within public safety, and having them understand where this is necessary. This isn't a cool option for your members. This is absolutely necessary. And the fact that it didn't happen 15 years ago is a problem, and we need to fix that problem now.
The best time to plant a tree was 15 years ago. The second best time is today. Yeah. So I heard you talking about, you didn't use the exact words, but I heard you talking about cultural competence when you were asking the questions. Is it a radio or a walkie-talkie? Is it an engine or a truck? How would you advise young practitioners who are attempting to break into this career of being a public safety athletic trainer? How do you get that cultural competence? What are the steps?
So I would say the biggest, most helpful step, and also the easiest in the way that you actually carry it out, but not necessarily the easiest mentally, is to be vulnerable about it. So I stood in front of those guys in Terra Haute to give a presentation on, here's what I'd like this program to look like. And I said, guys, I know nothing about the fire service, but I know about the human body, and I know how to make you move and feel better. So what I'm asking is that you teach me about fire, and I'll teach you about your bodies. And so you cannot be outwardly embarrassed or so uncomfortable that it stops you from asking a million questions. So ask what every tool is. Ask to pick up that tool. What do you use this for? Like, you are literally the 5-year-old at a birthday party in the bay of a firehouse who has never seen a fire engine before. I was that person who had never been a 5-year-old in a firehouse for a birthday party. First time I ever walked into a firehouse was when I already had this job. So I was far and away so lost walking in that there were so many things to ask. Now, the good news is, where you might annoy one person with 10,000 questions, there's no firehouse with only one person working at it. Obviously, there are very small volunteer departments maybe that have one person, but for the most part, in the setting you'll be working in public safety, spread out your questions, for the love of God, because someone will tell you where to shove it and to go away. But if you find that someone is really, really good at hazmat, that's the person you should be asking those questions to, because they want to talk about that. Ask the engineer about if they have a pump panel or they have a pump platform. There's a lot of different things, or what those things are called. If you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, Mo, ask someone who's in charge of that part of the firehouse or part of the apparatus to explain it to you, because there are a lot of things that they know about it that they don't realize are important for you to know. That's your job as an athletic trainer, or as a healthcare provider, as a strength conditioning coach, as a nutritionist, to understand what their job needs are, because they can't necessarily articulate them to you, but they can give you a lot of answers to questions that help you gather all of that information.
Ask better questions.
Yes.
Exactly. And I'm backing it up even more. You talked about the person that's had back pain for longer than you've been alive. Mm-hmm. And I sincerely feel like I have my little matrix of dealing with public safety. And the first one is meet them where they are. Mm-hmm. precisely, exactly, doesn't matter. Meet them where they are. The second one, get them out of pain. It's huge
Right.
because they're all in pain. Help them do something that they want to do that they can't do right now, and just be prepared for the craziest answers you will ever get in your life. Because, they'll say something totally arbitrary, like, I want to bench press 225, 20 times, which seems very arbitrary. But to them, that represents, that's the amount I warmed up with in college. And if I can do 20 times, I'm stronger than I was in college. It
Right.
seems arbitrary, but it makes sense to them. So meet them where they are, get them out of pain, help them do something that they want to do that they can't currently do. And then you can talk to them about performance. And that's,
yes, absolutely.
That buy-in is just another word for trust. And people trusted Mo because she did all of those things, and especially getting them out of pain. That's a really big deal. All right, I'm going to be the 5-year-old now. I have another question.
Okay, yes.
Let's pretend for a minute I am a young budding athletic trainer currently working at a physical therapy clinic or whatever. And I say, Mo, I want to work in public safety. I am dying to work in public safety. But I don't necessarily just want to go work for the hospital that services the fire department. I want to figure out a way that I can independently be an athletic trainer for a fire department. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so I have to have a doctor to work under, right? Is that possible to be an independent athletic trainer, find a doctor to work under, and create your own opportunity?
Yes, absolutely. That is absolutely feasible. There are a lot of layers to this. And so I know we talked about this in the last episode. I am not just pushing everyone to the piece at the Public Safety Athletic Trainers Society website.
Oh, no,
because I want everyone to be a subscriber. It's simply that we as a board for the Public Safety Athletic Training Society built this website because all of us that work in public safety get this question so frequently that we needed somewhere to compile all of this information so that people could access it, go through it, and then come to us with further along formulated questions. So, but to start from the basic level of question here to hopefully reach a broader audience, it is absolutely feasible to do that. There are a couple of frames of thought in terms of, should there be some sort of exchange between that physician and the athletic trainer? Like, do I owe them always referring to them? One, Stark Law says they cannot require that. Stand your ground on that, because you should be referring to physicians that you feel are best for that job. And the same physician that might be best for a rotator cuff repair may not be best for a plantar fascia injection. So you are legally protected from being required to refer to a specific place. I work for Forte Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, and I am not required to refer to them. When I refer to them, it's because I genuinely believe as a healthcare provider, they are the best people for the job. That is why I refer there. And if I think that there's an issue going on that is not best treated at Forte, then one, it's most likely not orthopedic, because I love these guys for everything orthopedic, but I will find them a different provider for that. So just keep that in a red flag to look for when looking for a physician. The other thing to keep in mind would be, I think that we all get into medicine to varying levels between people to help individuals, to help people. So I have heard of a couple of athletic trainers trying to open up cash-based business, not for public safety, but in general, that the physician was looking for a percentage of their income. I personally, this is just my personal opinion, see an athletic trainer that's working under a physician as more of like an extension of their hands, is one way to put it. And I don't think you owe them a percentage of your intake. There's a whole nother conversation to have about that. And I have a friend that works in cash-based AT named Brandy Jewett, and she has a phenomenal way of phrasing that. And that's a conversation for another day. But in general, yes, you can find whatever your agreement may look like, a physician to practice under. Just like if you are a PRN athletic trainer, so someone that signs up just for events here and there under no certain employer, you would still need to be practicing under a physician. You can find a physician that will sign off on you being able to do that. Now, once you are through that hurdle. The tricky part about public safety AT right now is that there are not a lot of jobs existing out there. So if you are just waiting for that perfect job to come across Indeed or Glassdoor or the National Athletic Trainers Association website, you're going to be waiting a while, most likely. You may find it, maybe the golden egg, but more than likely you're going to need to start your own job. And I was just joking with a student that I have in the fire department right now that when looking at different job descriptions, I don't have the best advice because I have somehow ended up in this phase of my career where I kind of turn in a job description and say, I work here now, and this is how much money I'm going to make, and this is my job. Thanks. I'll be over here doing that job. But in general, when you are writing your own job description or you are looking to break into a department, you don't necessarily have to know someone in that department to get your way in, but you do have to be patient and persistent. And I specifically say that as two different things because if you are so persistent that you annoy them, you're done. But if you are patient between replies or you try different angles of trying to get in, that's where patience and persistence work together to pay off. So whether you want to approach from the union side of things, maybe you know that your town has a very strong union presence and they're the ones that pushing forward to ask for an athletic trainer would help best. Maybe getting yourself in touch with, usually every union has at least a Facebook page, sending a message and saying, I would love to learn more about your union and your department. And with that, can I do a ride along? Whatever that looks like for that union's comfort level. It may look like approaching the chief of safety and wellness or the chief of training, probably not the chief of the department itself. You're going to get lost in their inbox or filtered to their junk folder. So don't start there. But can I learn more about your department? When they have open house days, go to those. There will be important people. They will be in white shirts with collars, and you need to go shake their hands firmly and look them in the eye and tell them who you are. And I recognize I have a very blunt personality, so this may not work for everyone, but I am very transparent when I meet a new chief and I say, my long-term goal for this department is for me to have a contract with you or you pay me $50,000 and I'm going to put an athletic trainer here and we're going to do it in the next 2 years. And they're like, what? Yeah, let's do it. And then it's worked out so far. But there are a lot of different ways to angle it. If you are terrified and have no idea what any of that looks like yet, start with something like the PSATs videos, because if you're not willing to put in a couple of hours to learn more about what that looks like, you're probably not going to want to put 20 years into actually working in that setting. But otherwise, getting involved in your local community, there are entire full-time jobs at a fire department or at a police department for people to do community outreach. So I promise you, there are community outreach events happening. Go meet as many people as you can, show your face. The more people that come back to the office and go, have you guys met that person that keeps walking around at these events and they want to do injury prevention? You will start, there will be some sort of spark there somewhere. Ask to be as involved as you can be, whether that's riding along on an ambulance for a day, which gets your face in the firehouse for 24 hours or 12 hours or 8 hours, or doing a ride along with an officer, which is, again, your face in fire and police headquarters, for 8 to 12 hours. That's where you start.
Hi, my name is Mo. This is my job description. This is how much you're going to pay me. I'm going to be over here doing my job. I've never heard it put so well. But Mo raises a great point. I mean, I teach a class on this whole process of kind of creating an opportunity for yourself in public safety. And she's absolutely right. You do have to be patient because it can take years. But you really must be persistent. And I'm going to give myself as an example. I spoke with a lady at the Center for Excellence 6 months ago, Molly Jones. She's a wonderful speaker. I'm like, yeah, I got to get you out to our department. I sent a few emails and I dropped the ball. I am one of the most meticulous and follow through people that I know. And I dropped the ball. And it has been 6 months and we still don't have Molly Jones booked. So sometimes when you feel like a department is kind of like ignoring you or putting you in the trash basket, you just might have fallen off their radar. So if you can be persistent, but not annoying, that can be super
Right.
helpful. This is a lot of good information. And I think the take home message is, again, if you are an athletic trainer and you want to work in public safety, the information is out there on the PSAT's website. You got to dig through it. You got to show some initiative and dig through it. Let's see, Mo. What can I have you tell the listeners about in terms of, so you talked about the stakeholders, you talked about the union, the people in the white shirts with the badges, the firefighters. How do you best navigate that landscape of sort of the administration versus the village, town, city, whatever, union, line firefighters? How do you navigate that? How do you how do you get your job done while dealing with all of the stakeholders?
It is a learning process that I'm sure I will go through for my entire career. I will say that I'm now at a point in my career where, reflecting on athletic training education, I go, every single athletic trainer should be required to take a business course. I have not taken a business course. I was like trial by fire. I think it would be just, even if you don't think you're going to end up in charge of something one day, I didn't think I was going to be where I am, but here we are. It is all about finding out what each person needs to know for their information and then measuring that data to give them that exact information. So let's say I work with some townships, some cities, some full municipalities. So they all need different things. As a short example, your mayor needs to know completely different things than your director of human resources, different things than your police chief and your fire chief, different things than their operations chief, different things than their battalion chiefs. So everyone needs different info, and it is absolutely your job to gather it and give those particular people the info that they need specifically. My battalion chief wants to know, how are these people scheduled already? Does it conflict with any other training, etc.? So I need to work with my training chief on that. I need to work with my EMS chief who's scheduling EMS training, and my public safety officials who are going to be doing community outreach events and detailing apparatus to that. Once I can get all of that done, I can say to the battalion chiefs, here's the schedule I have lined out. There are no conflicts. Can I go ahead and put this in the training system? And they say, yep, go for it. I need to tell my ops chief if and when apparatus will be out of service for. So when being like how long, because he is looking at how long are we taking people out of service to do this, or are we taking people out of service to do this? The chief wants to know financially, is this making sense for the department? And so we know easily from the data that I collect, and I talked about in episode 9, that this does absolutely make sense. But if I didn't have those numbers to say it makes sense, he cannot do his job and make budgets strictly off of, well, the guys like that she's here. That just doesn't cut it when it comes to budgeting. This is a business, even though it's not a for-profit business, that you still have to run it like a business. I still run PSATs like a business, even though we are a nonprofit. And that's so that we can have money to distribute back out to members. In a department, a fire police department, you have to run it like a business to make sure that you have enough money to maintain your apparatus. You have the money for your staffing. You can make sure that the civilians in your community are kept safe and secure by the people in your department. And the way you do that is with money. So that's why the financial aspect matters to him. To a elected official, whether you're working with a sheriff's department with an elected seat or like a mayor, it does matter how much the departments like the program, also what the finances look like, and how this looks aesthetically to the surrounding city. Does this look like they're getting preferential treatment? Or are we happy in the way that we present that we're keeping these men and women safe so they can keep you safer? It's all about the whole charade of all of it to make sure that everyone's on board. Did I ever think I'd have to worry about what Susie down the street thought of an athletic training program? No, but that is absolutely something I have to consider. So determining to wrap it up, determining what each member needs to know and then providing them with very simple, meaningful, but simple, easy to read, easy to digest, and easy to repeat statistics and information is the way that you get and maintain your job.
Here's what I heard. Mo speaks their language and she tells them what time it is. She doesn't build them a clock.
That's a perfect way to put it. I say put it on a silver platter for them.
Put it on a silver platter.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been such an interesting, I was looking forward to this conversation for so long, and it has completely just gone above and beyond my expectations. I really enjoyed it. Mo, is there anything, as we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to leave the potential public safety athletic trainer with? And then we'll grab your contact information as well.
Sure. I think one thing I always try to say to my employees is that the biggest thing on your plate will never be the smallest thing on my plate. And that can be difficult at times, depending on time constraints. But one thing I need you to know, trying to break into a department, is that you are not even on their plate yet. And that's where the patience and persistence comes in. So trying to slowly work your way onto their plate and then grow your presence on their plate is what you are working towards doing. There are different ways to do that. And one of the best things you can do is match up with someone who maybe is already within this realm so that they can help you do that, because there will be a lot of things on their public safety plate that you don't know about. For example, most, not all, but most public safety departments are getting their new budget for next year approved in October. So if you're like, oh man, it's football season, I'm trying to get out of this collegiate or high school job, and I'm so swamped with football, but I've been waiting to hear back from the fire department or the police department, I promise you, you are not their priority in September or October. You are not. However, next September or October, hopefully you're their biggest priority because they're fighting for the room in their budget to hire you. So working with someone who either has athletic training knowledge in public safety or administrative knowledge in public safety separate from athletic training is crucial, because there are so many things happening in their world that do not overlap into ours, because as just civilians on the street, it's stuff that we shouldn't and don't have to worry about, that it can be very frustrating when you don't know why you're not getting a response, but I promise there's a good reason. So give yourself every chance for success.
And get on their plate early.
Get on their plate.
Get on their plate. All right, Mo, how can the listeners reach you, social media or otherwise?
Yeah, so social media, I am primarily on Twitter, which is just at Maura Shea, MOSHEA, And then for email, it's a lot of vowels again. So it's Maura Erin Shea, MAURAERINSHEA@gmail.com. And you can reach me anytime.
Well, it has been my absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you today. I appreciate you infinitely. And Mo and AZ are officially